I also learned that it's okay to ask for help. There were times when I thought I had to go through it all alone. There were times when I felt like I was burdening others by sharing my pain, by showing my vulnerability. But what I learned is that asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. It takes courage to open up to others, to let people in, to allow yourself to be supported. And we all need that support. We all need to lean on others from time to time. We don't have to do it all alone, and we shouldn't. Because when we allow others to help us, we create a space for connection, for healing, for love. And it is through that connection that we find the strength to keep going. So when you feel like you are almost broken, when you feel like the world is too heavy to bear, remember this: you are not alone. You are not weak. You are not a failure. You are a warrior. You are stronger than you think. And no matter how hard it gets, no matter how many times you feel like giving up, you have the power to rise again. Because you are not defined by your struggles. You are not defined by your pain. You are defined by your ability to keep going, to keep rising, to keep choosing strength, to keep choosing strength, to keep choosing strength. And that, my friend, is what makes you unbreakable. Every single person who has faced adversity has a story of resilience, of rising from the ashes, of coming out stronger on the other side. And you are no different. You too have the strength to overcome. You too have the power to rise. So hold on just a little bit longer and know that your breakthrough is coming. Because you are not almost broken. You are just being prepared for something greater than you can imagine. When the world feels like it's falling apart, when you're carrying burdens too heavy for your heart to bear, and when you think you reach the limit of your strength, that's when life teaches you the most profound lessons. It's easy to look at a person who seems to have it all together and think they've never been in that dark place. But here's the truth: we all have a story. We all face moments when we feel like we're drowning in pain, when we question whether we can keep going. I've been there. I've stood at the edge of what felt like an unbridgeable chasm, staring into an abyss, wondering if I had the strength to step forward. There were times when the weight of everything, every doubt, every fear, every heartbreak almost crushed me. There were times when I thought I would never find my way back, when I felt too broken, too lost to make it. And in those moments, it was hard to believe that anything good could ever come out of the suffering. It was hard to see beyond the pain. But the truth is, it was in those moments of almost breaking that I discovered what I was truly made of. It was in the pain, in the struggle, in the fear that I began to tap into a power I didn't know existed within me. You see, when life pushes you to the brink, when everything seems impossible, that's when you realize that the limits you've been living by are often just illusions. You are capable of far more than you realize. I want you to think about the moments in your life when you thought you were at your breaking point. The moments when it felt like there was no way out. When you were so overwhelmed by your emotions, so consumed by fear and pain, that you couldn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. We all have those moments, whether they come in the form of a personal loss, a setback in our dreams, or simply the feeling that everything in our lives is slipping through our fingers. It's in these moments that we often forget one crucial thing. We have the power to choose how we respond. When I was almost broken, I felt like I had lost control of everything. I felt like I was watching my life unfold from the sidelines, as if the choices I had made, the paths I had taken, had led me to a place I couldn't escape. It was in that dark place that I had to learn the most important lesson. I may not have control over everything that happens to me, but I always have control over how I respond. It wasn't easy to accept. There were days when I felt so small, so insignificant, that I couldn't believe I had the strength to choose anything at all. But then I realized that even when I felt powerless, I still had one choice. I could choose to keep going. I could choose to fight, even if I didn't know how I was going to win. And that's what kept me moving forward. The truth is, we often spend so much time focusing on what's out of our control that we forget about the power we have to shape our own responses. We look at the challenges ahead of us, the obstacles in our way, and we wonder how we could possibly get through it all. But the key to overcoming those obstacles is understanding that the power is not in avoiding the struggle. The power is in how we choose to meet the struggle. The power is in how we rise when the world tries to knock us down. And even in our most fragile moments, we can choose to rise. It's a choice we make every single day. It's important to acknowledge that making that choice isn't always easy. When I was in the midst of my own challenges, there were days when I didn't want to get out of bed. There were days when I didn't want to face the world, when I didn't want to try anymore. But even on those days, I reminded myself that it was okay to take things one step at a time. Sometimes just getting through the day was enough. Sometimes just choosing to breathe and stay present in the moment was the greatest victory I could have. And it's in those small victories that we begin to rebuild. We don't always have to have everything figured out right away. We don't have to have all the answers. But we do have the ability to take one small step forward, even when we don't feel ready. And with every step we take, we get closer to the person we are becoming. We get closer to the strength that lies within us, waiting to be discovered. What I learned through all of this is that the moments when we are almost broken, when we feel like we can't go on, are the moments when we have the opportunity to redefine ourselves. It's easy to let our pain define us, to let the challenges we face become the story of who we are. But we don't have to let that happen. The struggles we face can shape us, but they don't have to define us. What defines us is how we choose to move forward from those struggles. What defines us is our ability to pick ourselves up, even when we feel like we've fallen apart. It's a journey, and it's okay to take it one step at a time. There is no timeline for healing. There is no formula for getting through difficult times. But there is one thing I know for sure. You are stronger than you think. You are capable of more than you give yourself credit for. And even in your most vulnerable moments, there is a power within you that can carry you through. It might take time to uncover it, but I promise you, it's there. It's in the quiet moments when you choose to keep going, when you choose to trust yourself, when you choose to believe that things can get better. So when you find yourself at a crossroads, when you feel like you're almost broken, remember this. You don't have to have it all figured out right now. You don't have to know exactly what the future holds, but you do have the power to choose how you respond to the present moment. You have the power to choose hope, to choose resilience, to choose the belief that you are capable of overcoming anything that comes your way, even when it feels impossible, even when you feel like you can't take another step. You are stronger than you think. You are not alone, and you will get through this. And when you do, you will look back and see that the pain, the struggle, the moments when you thought you couldn't go on, they were all part of the process that made you who you are today. They were all part of the journey that led you to a version of yourself that you never knew was possible. So don't give up. Don't lose hope. Even in your darkest moments, trust that there is a light waiting for you just beyond the horizon. Keep going, one step at a time. Keep fighting, one breath at a time. You are stronger than you know. You will rise. And one day you'll look back and realize that the hardest moments of your life were the ones that helped you become the strongest version of yourself. In life, we will all encounter moments where it feels like we are almost broken, where we question whether we have the strength to continue. But it's in those very moments when everything seems to be crumbling that we find our deepest resilience. Our true power lies not in avoiding the struggles, but in how we face them. It is about choosing, time and time again, to rise from the ashes, even when the road ahead seems unclear and the weight feels too heavy to bear. What I've learned is that healing doesn't happen overnight, and strength isn't defined by never falling. It's defined by how we rise each time, how we pick ourselves up even when the world tells us to stay down. In those moments of pain and vulnerability, we are being shaped into the strongest versions of ourselves. And it is through our scars that we begin to understand our own power. We are all warriors, capable of more than we often believe. And in every step forward, no matter how small, we are becoming who we are truly meant to be. So remember, when you feel like you're almost broken, you're not alone. You have the power to rise again, stronger than before. Your story is still being written and the best chapters are still ahead of you. Keep going, keep believing, because within you lies a strength that will never be broken. And one day you will look back and realize that your greatest victory was not in avoiding the battles, but in choosing to fight, even when the odds were against you. When life throws challenges at you, when you're drowning in the weight of your own struggles, when it feels like you've hit rock bottom and there's no way out, I want you to know one thing: you are not alone. I've been there, in that dark, lonely place where everything seems impossible. The kind of place where your soul feels shattered and you can barely hold yourself together. But let me tell you, it is in those moments of complete vulnerability that we find our true strength. You see, life doesn't give us a handbook for the tough moments. No one tells you how to cope when your world falls apart. It's not like there's an instruction manual that says, hey, here's how you will get through this. No, instead, you have to find your own way. You have to search deep inside yourself for the courage to keep going, even when everything in your life seems to be telling you to stop. And it's okay to feel lost, to feel broken, because that's where the healing begins. I want to take you back to a time when I was almost broken, when everything I thought I knew about myself, about the world, was shattered. It was one of the hardest times of my life, and I was struggling to even breathe. I was drowning in my own tears, trying to keep my head above water. But that's when I realized something incredibly important. Even in the darkest of moments, I still had the power to choose. I had the power to decide whether I would allow this moment to define me or whether I would rise above it. I won't lie to you. It wasn't easy. It was a constant battle. Every day felt like a fight for survival. Some days I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to face the world. But there was a small voice inside me, one that I could barely hear at first, but that gradually grew louder. It told me that I was not done. It told me that I had a purpose, even though I couldn't see it at that moment. It told me that no matter how many times I fell, I could always rise again. The truth is, there are times when we are so close to breaking, when we feel like we've given everything we have and there's nothing left to give. We feel as though the weight of our pain is too much to bear. But here's the thing. We are built to endure. We are built to rise. And even in those moments when we feel like we can't take another step, we find a way to keep moving forward. We may not realize it in the moment, but it is in the struggle that we find our strength. It is in the pain that we discover our resilience. Every scar, every tear, every moment of doubt, they are not signs of weakness. They are evidence of how far we have come. And those scars, they are beautiful. They are reminders of the battles we have fought and the victories we've claimed, even when it felt like we were losing. When I was almost broken, I had to learn to let go of the need for perfection. I had to accept that it was okay not to have it all together. It was okay to ask for help. It was okay to admit that I couldn't do it alone. And that, my friend, is one of the most powerful lessons I've ever learned. We don't have to do this alone. We don't have to carry our burdens by ourselves. And asking for help doesn't make you weak, it makes you strong. It takes courage to ask for help, to lean on others, to let people in. But here's the most important thing I've learned. Even when it felt like I was at my weakest, I was still stronger than I realized. And so are you. We all have a strength inside of us that we don't always see, especially when we're in the midst of our struggles. We doubt ourselves, we question our abilities, and we wonder if we're enough. But trust me, you are more than enough. You are capable of so much more than you give yourself credit for. There were days when I felt like everything was falling apart and I couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. But then, slowly, I began to notice something amazing. Even though my world was crumbling, I was still standing. I was still breathing. I was still moving forward, even if it was just one tiny step at a time. And that's what matters. It's not about taking giant leaps or making huge strides. Sometimes it's about taking that one small step, even when you feel like you can't take another one. It's about showing up for yourself, even when you don't feel like it. It's about believing that there is more to your story than the chapter you're living in right now. I've learned that life is unpredictable. You can never know what tomorrow will bring. But I've also learned that we have the power to choose how we respond to whatever life throws our way. We can choose to let our circumstances define us, or we can choose to define our circumstances. We can choose to stay stuck in our pain, or we can choose to rise above it. We can choose to be broken, or we can choose to be unbreakable. And when I look back at those moments when I felt like I was almost broken, I realized something incredible. It was in those moments that I discovered my true power. It was in the pain that I found my strength. It was in the darkest of days that I learned how to shine the brightest. It was in the struggle that I became stronger. And I know that I am not alone in this. Every single person who has ever faced adversity has a story of resilience to tell. And if they can do it, so can you. So I want you to remember this: no matter where you are in your journey right now, you are not defined by your struggles. You are not defined by your pain. You are not defined by the times when you felt like you were falling apart. You are defined by the way you rise. You are defined by the strength you find when you think you have none left. You are defined by the courage you show when the world seems to be against you. And when you feel like you're almost broken, I want you to remember this: you are not weak, you are not a failure, you are not alone. You are a warrior, and you have the strength to overcome anything that comes your way. It might take time, it might take patience, but you are capable of more than you realize. I know it's hard, I know it feels impossible at times, but trust me, you are not defined by your darkest moments. You are defined by your ability to keep going, even when you feel like giving up. And that is what makes you unbreakable. So hold your head up high, my friend. Keep walking, even when the road feels long and uncertain. And when you look in the mirror, don't see your pain. Don't see your struggles. See your strength. See your resilience. See the warrior within you. Because you are stronger than you think. You are unbreakable. And you are worthy of all the love, the success, and the happiness that is yet to come. Remember, you are not almost broken. You are just in the process of becoming who you were always meant to be, and that person is extraordinary. When life throws challenges at you, when you're drowning in the weight of your own struggles, when it feels like you've hit rock bottom and there's no way out, I want you to know one thing: you are not alone. I've been there, in that dark, lonely place, where everything seems impossible. The kind of place where your soul feels shattered and you can barely hold yourself together. But let me tell you, it is in those moments of complete vulnerability that we find our true strength. In those moments when everything around you feels like it's slipping through your fingers, when you question your own worth, when you think you can't take another step, that's when you realize just how powerful you are. It's not in the moments of ease that we discover our strength, but in the moments when we feel like giving up. It's in those broken pieces that we start to piece together the person we are truly meant to become. I want you to understand something very important. Being in a place where you feel like you are almost broken, where the weight of life seems unbearable, is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of being human. It's a sign of fighting, of surviving, of still breathing, even when it feels impossible. Because the truth is, life does not go easy on us. It doesn't give us a smooth path, free of bumps and turns. It throws curveballs, it throws obstacles, it throws challenges we never expected. And it's in those challenges that we grow. It's in the hardest of times that we become the strongest versions of ourselves, whether we realize it in the moment or not. Let me take you back to a time when I was almost broken, when everything I thought I knew about myself was questioned, when I was stretched beyond my limits, when I thought the weight of everything would crush me. I was overwhelmed with pain, with fear, with self-doubt. I was exhausted, emotionally drained, physically drained. I felt like I was fighting an endless battle with no victory in sight, and I didn't know how I was going to get through it, but somehow I did. I didn't get through it all at once. It wasn't an instant fix. It wasn't a magical transformation. But step by step, piece by piece, I found a way to keep going. I found strength in the smallest things. I found courage in the moments when I thought I had none left. And that's the lesson I want to share with you today. Even in your lowest moments, there is always a way forward. You just have to find it. You just have to believe that there is something more waiting for you, even when you can't see it yet. When I was almost broken, I remember feeling like I had nothing left to give, like I had already given everything, and there was nothing more in me to offer the world, or to even offer myself. Have you ever felt that way? Have you ever reached a point where you feel like you've given everything you can, and you just don't have it in you to keep going? I know I have. I know what it feels like to be at that place, where you feel like you can't keep fighting, where you feel like there's no way out. But let me tell you this, even when you feel like you have nothing left, you still have something. You have the ability to choose. You have the power to decide that you will not stay down. You have the power to decide that even in the midst of your pain, you will keep going. Or, you see, the biggest battle we face is not the external challenges, the obstacles that life throws at us. The biggest battle we face is the one within ourselves. It's the battle between giving up and keeping going, between letting fear control us and letting hope guide us. And that battle is won with small decisions to keep going, small decisions to take one more step, even when we feel like we can't. Small decisions to hold on just a little bit longer until we see that glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel. And sometimes that glimmer doesn't appear immediately. Sometimes you have to keep going, even when you can't see it. You have to trust that it's there, waiting for you, just beyond the horizon. During the hardest times in my life, I learned that I couldn't control everything. I couldn't control the pain I was feeling. I couldn't control the circumstances that had brought me to that place. But what I could control was how I responded. I could control how I chose to face those challenges. I could control whether I chose to let them defeat me or whether I chose to let them transform me. And that's the key to overcoming any challenge. Knowing that you can't control everything, but you can control your response. You can control how you handle the pain, how you handle the setbacks, how you handle the uncertainty. And in those moments of uncertainty, when everything feels out of control, that's when we find our true strength. It's not when everything is easy, but when everything seems impossible. And we choose to keep going anyway. But I also had to learn something very important in that process. I had to learn that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not have it all together. It's okay to fall apart, to cry, to feel lost. We often put so much pressure on ourselves to be strong all the time, to never show vulnerability, to always have it all figured out. But the truth is, we are all human. We all face moments of weakness. We all face moments when we feel like we can't go on. And that's okay. Because it's in those moments that we learn the most about ourselves. It's in those moments of vulnerability that we open ourselves up to healing, to growth, to change. It's in those moments that we become more connected to our true selves, to our authentic selves, to the person we are meant to be. I also had to learn that healing doesn't happen overnight. It's not a quick fix. It's a journey. And sometimes that journey feels long. Sometimes it feels like you're not making any progress. But let me tell you this, even when you can't see it, even when you don't feel it, progress is happening. Healing is happening. You are changing, you are growing, you are becoming stronger with every single step. And even though you might not be able to see it yet, one day you will look back and realize just how far you've come. And you'll see that the struggles you faced, the pain you endured, the times you thought you were almost broken, they were the things that made you who you are today. They were the things that shaped you, that taught you how strong you really are. And it's not just about the big victories. It's about the small moments of courage, the small moments of strength, the small moments where you choose to keep going even when you don't feel like it. Every time you get up after falling, every time you keep moving forward despite the fear, every time you choose hope over despair, you are winning. You are growing. You are becoming the person you were always meant to be.